cheeks?
You did.
They are. I'm Nancy Dean, and I'm a candidate for the Texas House. I am a career public educator, and I just retired in June from being a counselor for special needs children in Arlington, ISD. I retired so that I could fight full-time for public education. That's what I'm doing. Because I believe that universal public education is the foundation for democracy, and I believe in democracy. It's essential. It's part of the infrastructure for not only a robust economy, but for the access to opportunity that we believe in, that Americans have fought for, that Texans are passionate about, for access to opportunity and for economic and social mobility. Without public education, that disappears. So as the Texas legislature continues to defund and devalue public education, the survival of democracy is at stake. It's that big of an issue. Quality public education relies on responsible funding. The Constitution, as you've heard already today, stipulates adequate funding for public education. The reasons your property taxes are going up is because your legislature has renounced that obligation. The money is there. It's the will that's missing. Quality public education also demands respect and status. We can't retain and recruit the best educators for our children while we insult them, while we devalue them, while we demean public educators and public education. The myth that public education is failing our children is perpetuated by those who have a vested interest in undermining teaching of the profession and in looting public funding for themselves. It's about money. Public education is not failing. It's performed admirably. Despite increasing demands, increasing needs, we educate all children. We educate children who come with behavioral problems, with special needs, with emotional illness. Those were the children I worked with. We educate children who show up for 2 weeks and disappear until it's time for the STAR test. And we do a good job. And they show up for the STAR test, and so now it's time to talk about that STAR test. The true measure of education and of educators is not in high-stakes testing. We do want our automobiles and our cell phones to be standardized, but we want our children to be educated as individuals and as citizens who, like all great Texans, think for themselves. As Troy said, we want gardens, not factories. Accountability is not to be found in high-stakes testing which sucks $500 million from our educational dollars. Accountability is not to be found in standardized testing which substitutes filling in bubbles for learning. I've seen children go home with headaches and stomach aches because instead of being taught, their teachers were forced to drill them on the test. That's not education. Accountability of education is all about real Texans contributing to self-governance and to community problem solving, like you're doing today. All Texans engaged in productive work and meaningful vocation. Meaningful assessment is formative and responsive to the needs and to the strengths of those children in that classroom. Meaningful assessment enriches rather than robs the classroom of learning. And professional educators already know how to do that. The quality of public education provided to the poorest and most vulnerable communities is really the truest measure of our commitment to democracy. Providing access to opportunity begins with access to public education, and that starts with quality pre-K. We know that early childhood is the smartest investment we can make in Texas, not just socially, but economically. In fact, estimates range from $2 to $4, some even as high as $7 or $9 for the economic payback for a quality, universal public education in early childhood. If Oklahoma can provide universal pre-K education, surely Texas can. Quality education depends on quality curriculum that reflects academic consensus and marketplace requirements, which is why my first bid for office was for the State Board of Education. And then I found out all about the funding and decided I needed to run for the state legislatures. Texas led the nation with our statewide standards. We had the teats long before Common Core came on the scene. And Texas House Bill 5 outlines a way for Texas to move forward in high school graduation and career preparation by requiring that high school students have a plan and revisit it yearly with their counselor. But to make this personal and nonpartisan, I have a little story for you. Last month, I called up my cousin Dale. Dale is a very successful farmer in the Panhandle where I'm from. And Dale is definitely not a Democrat. And I said, Dale, I know you're not a Democrat, but I know you care deeply about public education and I need your help. And he said, well, I reckon you're right on both counts. And I said, you got to know that the fellow I'm running against, Dale, has never attended a public school and has no use for public education. And if you don't believe me, you can check out his voting record. And he said, well, Nancy, I believe I can send you a check. So last week, as soon as I got my check from Dale, I wrote Uncle John a letter. Uncle John is 97 years old, and he's Dale's father-in-law. I'd already asked Uncle John for an investment in my campaign 3 times, and he'd already said no 3 times. So this time, I put a stamped, self-addressed envelope in that letter, because I knew he wouldn't want the stamp to go to waste. And I said, dear Uncle John, your son-in-law Dale just wrote me a check for $1,000 because he believes in public education and he trusts me to fight for it. And you know he's no Democrat. Uncle John wrote back, said, dear Nancy, my check enclosed is the widow's mite compared to the rich man's offering. Because I already spent mine on Dale's kids and my other grandkids. Last time I gave to a politician, he lost. So you better not lose. And then, in the memo line, the bottom of the check, Uncle John had scrawled in his 97-year-old penmanship, in quotations, the word hope. I'm Nancy B., and I'm going to Austin to fight for public education.